Welcome to the Power Curve. I'm Holly Scott. In our podcast, I have the pleasure of chatting with accomplished industry executives regarding their career and developmental opportunities along the way, with the idea of empowering you, our listener, as you navigate your own career path. Today, I have the opportunity to speak with Scott Berger, the Chief Commercialization Officer at Vista Health. Scott, we are thrilled to have you here today.
Thanks, Holly. It's great to be here. Always enjoyed working with you, and this is an exciting opportunity to just sit down and talk a little bit about my experiences, and hopefully it can help someone out.
Yeah, you were a real unique experience because we worked together during the very early days of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So we went through the entire interview process, landed your C-suite role, all through comprehensive interviewing via video conferencing, the magic tool today, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. This has become commonplace in my life now. It's about a year. It'll be a year early in June, and I'm having a meeting with my team this week, and it'll be the first time meeting anyone on my team. It's been a unique time, but it's been exciting because you have the opportunity to really get to know these folks through video, and we feel like we have great relationships now, but I think the opportunity to sit down and break some bread and have some discussions will take that to the next level.
I agree. I'm sure that you're all going to walk away even more pumped and excited about what's ahead. And, you know, Scott, we do a lot of work, as you know, and as the audience knows, within the young startup world. And I'm real excited about Vista and being a part of the team's development for many years before even the big renaming. I'd love to hear, and I'm sure you can share with the audience a little bit about what brought you to the company, what excited you about what they're doing, and perhaps where they're headed.
Absolutely. So I've been in medical technology, computer software, hardware based fused with medical devices for almost 25 years now. And when I saw the technology at Vista Health, it blew me away. Holly, when you called, I can remember I was coming back from Mayo Clinic, meeting with some teams there. And I sat in the car talking with you the first time for about an hour. And we talked about the technology, and I had visions of what could become of this technology almost instantly. So I love the technology, but first and foremost, leadership makes such a difference in an organization you're going to. And Don Crawford, the CEO at Vista Health, his visions fit my visions. I enjoyed talking to him right away, and he had that upbeat, positive attitude that's so important in a startup community, because if you're not a family in a startup, it's really tough to work to get things done. You deal with so many different people in that organization every day, so it's really important to feel like you're a family.
Leadership draws people in for sure.
It absolutely does. Vista, the technology, I previous to Vista, I was with HeartFlow, and that was a diagnostic test for cardiovascular disease. The vision that I see with Vista Health, it actually comes upstream of where HeartFlow was. So it can be a test that can be done remotely. It gives you not only cardiovascular disease, coronary artery disease, but it gives you elevated LV-EDP, and it gives you pulmonary hypertension. So the opportunity to really help the underserved market with this technology is going to be a real big deal.
Interesting that you said you'd been at that intersection for a lot longer than many have experienced it. You've been watching this for a couple decades, the integration of software and tech into healthcare. So do you finally feel like you're coming into your own the last 7-8 years where the gas has been really thrown on the fire?
I absolutely do. I've seen it. I've seen the level of focus significantly go up throughout the years. And we're at an area right now where the value-based healthcare system is coming more and more into play. And the opportunity to use AI and machine learning right now is a staple in medical devices. And I really got to give a shout out to my wife. It was a family decision. Going into a startup is not a small consideration. And anytime you're in a startup, you're doing so many more things, and travel tends to pick up as well. So it was, she had to make some sacrifices. We sat down, we talked about it, and I thank her every day, because it's allowed us to get to an area where it's paid off over the last 25 years, but it's going to continue to pay off even more.
Yeah, that's interesting that you brought that up, because there's a standing mantra in our organization that the number one career decision you can make is with whom you decide to choose to spend your life. You know, you have to make that choice wisely, because that person is going to be fundamentally your backbone for your career. And if you're not on the same footing, that can be dangerous.
It absolutely can. And I made a great choice. I don't know how I tricked her into making her choice, but I'm glad I did.
Well, let's go back, because now you are enjoying a really exciting opportunity at the C-suite, and many folks in my audience look towards people like you and say that's where I'd want to go. So as you think back to your early career education, and I don't mean education in the classic your degree, but how did you start thinking about career as a young adult, even prior to that? Did it stem from your upbringing? Were there early mentors for work ethic or for healthcare? Anyone in your life that drove you towards this path?
So interestingly enough, my degree is in chemistry. I started out as a chemist. Athletics really gave me a level of focus to see that the work you put in would pay off long term. So it was really coaches and the opportunity to really have to push through athletics to become successful. I'd say that was the biggest push as far as the drive in my career. However, when I look back at my career, I started out with Dow Chemical, and I absolutely hated working in the chemistry lab. I'm a guy who, likes to tell jokes and have fun. And the chemist I was working with didn't quite have that same focus. So I had to actually start out. I got my first job in sales was selling filtration to different companies. So I had to prove that I could sell. And then I had a friend of mine who took a chance on me as a recruiter and got me into medical devices. And as soon as I got into medical devices, I really started to focus on that fusion of medical technology with medical devices with computer-based technologies. I had friends that were in that technology bubble, selling softwares to companies non-medical. And at the time, they were doing very well, and I saw that as an opportunity to transition the two. Obviously, since there's been a lot of ups and downs in software-based technologies in business, but it's just continued to rise in the medical devices. So it worked out extremely well. I'm really fortunate.
Mm-hmm. That foundation in chemistry too, having a core, if you can obtain a core science degree and balance it with the other side of your brain, with that commercialization side, that tends to be a pretty powerful combo. And I would encourage someone on the contrary as well. If you're drawn to the arts, if you're drawn to the liberal sciences, if you're drawn to things that are probably not as STEM oriented, that's okay. But try and challenge yourself, push yourself outside to do something that may not be comfortable or easy, because I do find that counterbalance becomes a much more marketable, meaty, holistic individual at each level, and it only accelerates through time.
Makes a lot of sense.
Have you grew up through the sales and commercial side, and you were with Dow. Dow's one of the bigger giants, but at some point you moved from big corporate, and you took a shot on the startup. What was that balance? You mentioned, your wife's support, but there's measured risk there. What was what went into your decision at the time? What was the draw that eventually pulled you over?
So there were two key things. The first one I talked a little bit about software, hardware-based technologies. So that was definitely one, and I found one in an area that made a lot of sense for me. I was, at the time that I took the job with Superdimension, I was with Bard and sold a lot of pulmonary technologies. And this position was using a navigational device for the lungs. So I had the pulmonary experience. I had relationships with a lot of key pulmonologists, but I saw the opportunity to really pull in that AI software, hardware-based technology into my repertoire. And so that was one of the key things. But the other real key thing, and I've talked about it a little bit earlier, the leadership and the believing in leadership. And the last 4 companies I've been with, I've got mentors that are still friends to this day, and that I call on a regular basis to get input and to ask assistance on things. And John Shortle was the president general manager of Superdimension at the time, and much like Don and I hit it off, John and I hit it off, and I felt comfortable with him. I trusted him, and I knew this was an opportunity to get into software-based medical technologies.
How did you develop that mentor relationship? I assume it was organic when you jumped into the company, but how did you develop that one-on-one that's carried you over the years?
Honesty, candor, I really believe in, and people that I've worked for, people that have worked for me. One of the biggest things I try to show, I work extremely hard, and that comes from the athletic background. But they've seen me working. I'm honest to a fault. I mean, I'll tell them exactly what I think, and we'll have a conversation about it. And it's not always easy conversations, but just having those honest conversations, allows the opportunity that they know that I'm A, thinking for what's best for the organization, but B, going to give them straight discussion on everything.
Comes back to authenticity and trust, doesn't it? I could probably say that in every relationship in my life, whether it be professional, personal. If you can really build that, I'm going to be honest with you, even when you're not going to like what I have to say, or I'm going to be honest with you when it's going to be challenging for us to work through it. That's a very strong start, right? Now, I'll also add on, because especially the audience being younger in their career, don't bring a problem without a potential solution. If you're going to talk about difficult things, there's a line between whining and problem solving, right? But it is very, very important to put the need of the organization, the goal, ahead of your individual ego. So if you're feeling reluctant because a topic is tough or a situation is not optimal, sometimes manning up and having those hard conversations can make the difference. And then the long term, you look back and say, John and I have developed these relationships because of the battle scars we have, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What did that first startup, from a development perspective, what were some of the lessons you learned that you took with you, and with that, along those same lines, got you, entrenched in the startup world? You really never wanted to go back to the larger organization based on our conversation. So I'm curious what you learned and what you loved.
Absolutely. That's a really good question. The biggest thing for me is it gave me a level of confidence that I could handle whatever came up in my day-to-day operation. You have to wear multiple hats in a startup, and you really get taken out of your comfort zone a good amount of times. And that really ensures that you sharpen your skill sets and really helps you to think outside the box. So as I transitioned out of Superdimension and transitioned into Biosense Webster, which was a company that was purchased by J&J, but was still handled as a startup organization. Shlomi Nachman, who's a mentor of mine, he had started when BioSense was a small company out of Israel. And when I came in and I sat down and talked with him, he recognized my startup experiences. We talked about different things that we had both been through, and we hit it off right away. He's a confident and a friend, as we've talked about with Don and John to this day. We actually together came up with a strategy to work on the sales force, where we incorporated pods or groups of people who worked together on a smaller level, which again built that community and trust base within the sales organization. And it went extremely well. We saw significant growth, and at this point right now, they just passed the $2 billion mark. He is now running cardiovascular for all of J&J, and somebody that I just think the world of. But that time in Johnson & Johnson with BioSense Webster was handled much like a startup. So even though, like we've talked about, I prefer the startup mentality, we had that at BioSense, which was a pretty unique opportunity to have within a larger organization. And I'm hoping we can do that here at Vista, because we've got some really nice opportunities, and I'd really love to continue and grow this company to a very large company and have that startup mentality throughout.
Well, given the market condition, market climate, as from where I sit today, and in digital health, the investments that continue to pour in, the partnerships that I'm seeing, the integration of pharma and device companies, there's so many reasons that this organization's path of success could be much, much more significant than perhaps historically startups are, where you build a widget, acquired by bigger widget company, and move on, right? It's just not that same, it's not that same storybook anymore, which is exciting. It really is.
It is.
Yeah. No, it's exciting to see the tech integration and the crossover with biopharma, with device, with biologics. We're seeing so much more convergence that is exciting. Mm-hmm. And we, you know, you and I have both been around for a couple decades, so I remember how difficult it was, and it had to be the right time for a lot of these things to happen. The FDA had to get to a point where there was enough of a level of guidance that there was a confidence about moving forward successfully. So yeah, I am insanely excited. I'm more excited about the next 10 years in healthcare than I've been about the last 20. So here, you're now in a lead position as a leader, and you've been a leader of teams for many, many years now. Were you ever thrown a curveball that that really sucked you in the gut, and you were like, shoot, I don't know what I'm going to do? It really caught you off guard. And I'm curious about how you tackled it and how you pivoted, if you had to pivot, and how you recovered, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all been thrown curveballs as you get into the situations. I mean, one of the things that's constant we always talk about is change. And there's so many different positive things that come from working in a startup, but there can be challenges as well. And one of those potential challenges that can happen is the change of that leadership. That I talked a little bit about how important leadership was within an organization, and believing and feeling as one with that leadership. That leadership can change. And it can mean that there's a little bit of a deviation from the fundamentals that have made the organization successful. You still have to be nimble and open to change, and you have to follow leadership's agenda. Mm-hmm. Most importantly, I found, though, you have to be true to your character, and you have to do the right things when it comes to business. And much like the other mentors I had when I was at HeartFlow, John Stevens, who was the CEO and had to step away for a period of time because of health reasons, and is now back at the CEO role after several years. And Campbell Rogers, who both he and I knew Shlomi very well, and that's how I got connected to HeartFlow. again, even though someone like John Stevens or Campbell transitioned out of the position that they held, having those strong, trustful relationships allowed me to go to them and have conversations and get input and insights and get feedback on best things to happen. And I owe all of these people, these mentors of mine, just the world. I'm so thankful to all of them because when you have people you can trust, you can get through those challenging, difficult times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's so. From the outside, it's easy to say that that company from 0 to 50 people is dynamically different from 50 to 200 and then 200 and beyond. And when I look at it from the outside, it can be fairly clinical. In this stage, they need this. In this stage, they need almost, like a doctor looks at a patient. But when you're in that, right, and when you are in those organizations, there are serious growing pains associated with those transitions, and they're absolutely for the health of the company. And you've seen it. Sometimes it's in the organization's best interest that you move on, or someone like you moves on, and they bring in someone else who has more of an interest in taking it to the next level, right? There's skill sets, there's interests, there's goals, and the goals are typically dynamically different. So it's important to stay strategic when you think about your development and what resonates with you, because what resonates with you and keeps you authentic and trustworthy is going to be where you feel the most valuable. The transparency is transactional. The people who are going to work and checking the box and blowing up the rocks or whatever they're doing at work on a daily basis, those people don't tend to have the staying power in the industry and in the marketplace because they don't have that dig in and that passion. So it's remarkable. I'm fascinated by your career because of the integration that you've seen, been a part of, and I feel like we finally got to a point where you're going to really roll with this over the next number of years. I'm excited to see it. So what keeps you healthy? I know you haven't been traveling as much, but that will likely pick up again. Yes, it will. What's your daily routine that keeps you sane, that keeps you balanced? What are some of the things that you like to do to take care of yourself or take care of your performance? Any tips for our audience?
So one of the most important things, and it again goes back to a lot of the leaders that I've worked with, but the most important thing I think in the daily routine is to listen. The more opinions you can get, the more eclectic views that feed into an overall decision, I think are helpful. And I have a lot of confidence in my instincts. However, I really want to always challenge those instincts and make sure that we're getting input from everybody on the team and ensure that we're making the right decision, because it takes a village to be able to create the strategy around bringing up technology to the market, and making sure that there's everybody's involved and feels like they have input is important to the overall positive atmosphere of the organization as well.
So that's a huge point, Scott. I want to ask you a little deeper on that. How do you develop a team that it feels comfortable actually speaking with you? Because here's what I hear. I hear the leader say, I want my team to be heard. I want their opinion. And I hear the team say, they're going to do what he or she, or they're going to do what they want anyway, and they really don't want my opinion. It's placating me, right? So how do we, because you're doing it well, I see how this is working. How have you set the table with your team to give them a safe place to offer input? And how do you, when given the input, make your decision, even if it doesn't resonate with what their input suggests?
So it's the first thing that has to happen, and I've said this probably hundreds of times when I've gone into a meeting, is everybody checks their titles at the door. We're all going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to get the job done. And it's something I truly believe. We talked a little bit about the changes within an organization, and there's someone from Heartflow that is working with me on my team now, and as John Stevens transitioned out for a period of time because of his health, the organization transitioned in a different direction, and because of that transition, there were people who weren't comfortable in giving their input, and John was one of those people who always searched for input as well, and so not only in this person that I brought over did I see the reluctance to give feedback, but I saw it a lot with the people on my team. Just if I said something, they wanted to go with it. And I really had to stop the conversation. I said, look, that's just my opinion. I want your opinion now. This is something that we're going to work on together. And as people have insight into things, and as we make changes on things that have that we've been working on, that really assists them in seeing that their opinion brings value and matters.
Right. So real follow through there, and keeping, showing by action that it's not exclusively lip service. And hey, I heard you, and here's the direction we're going. Here's why. Right. So making sure, now that's sage advice. It really is.
And I think the other thing is, and there are obviously things that come up that may have been mistakes or may have been able to have been done differently. And I think one of the most important things you can do is how you handle a situation that may have some adversity in it, and showing that you're there to try to help someone grow rather than find fault with them. And those situations, when handled with care and nurturement, make a big difference in allowing people to be able to give that feedback as well.
Yeah, when working with some of my younger or less experienced teammates, I'll say, I don't expect perfection, but I expect you to come to me with challenges and we work through them. You're human. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for humanity.
Exactly.
And a real interest in improving and improvement.
Yep.
Well, as you know, you've been athletic your whole life. Your boys play high level basketball, right? It's training. Yep. A lot of it comes back to training.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Speaking of that, you work out every day, right?
I try. Yeah. It's been a little bit more of a challenge with COVID, but about a third to halfway in, we got a Peloton, and now I'm competing against people and pushing myself to try to stay in that top 2 to 5% of every workout I do. Excellent.
There you go. Well, that I know is a big help for balancing your psyche and physical state and everything. That's a commonality with most successful people I work with, is that they find time to take care of themselves, whether it's meditating or exercise or spirituality or the like. So in the midst of these, the most important question I'm going to ask you today is what's in your podcast repertoire, as well as your workout playlist, because that's what I'm really interested in here, Scott.
So first thing, as far as reading, I love history. So Team of Rivals is one of my favorite books, and it talks a little bit about the political genius of Abraham Lincoln. And that book also talks about how he set up his cabinet with people who had different opinions than he did, so he could get a wide variety of different thoughts as he was making decisions. So that's a book that's always stayed with me. I'm also reading Alexander Hamilton and Napoleon the Life, which are both great books. As far as music, you're going to laugh. So I play basketball. Both of my boys play basketball. They're early 20s and 18, 20 and 18. We talk about urban music a lot and rap. And my go-to rap is Drake for my workouts. And so the three of us talk about urban music a lot, and we have a few differences, but the energy and the beat of the music really gets me moving with my workouts. With podcasts, I've been listening to Science Versus, and it talks a lot about some different scientific conspiracies that have happened throughout the years, and also listening to revolutions. So talking about various revolutions in time.
Those podcasts sound very interesting. I want to check out that scientific one.
Really
That's there's a lot of controversy and just a lot of interesting things going on right now around science. So that would be interesting. But I got to tell you, the workout for me too. I'm a 90s, 80s, and 90s girl. So Drake's got me. Little John, Dr. Dre.
Nice.
Oh yeah. I was running this morning to that stuff, laughing. My boys think I'm crazy, but that's okay. I try to get them into the 80s stuff, so they're getting there. They're getting there.
That's what built it all.
This is it. If you can connect with your kids on anything, music, whatever it is, sports, we gotta stay close to them, right?
Absolutely. The most important thing in life.
Yeah, no doubt. Scott, I knew this would be fun, and I knew it would be a true pleasure, and I mean it sincerely when I thank you for this time. I know you have a really busy day today in Aspen, so thanks for cutting it out. I hope you and your team have a phenomenal meeting, and we'll look forward to talking really soon as we follow the excitement of Vista.
Sounds great. Thanks for the time. I think that it's always a highlight of my day when I get to talk to you, so I really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Scott. Likewise. It's been fantastic. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Power Curve. Until next time, have a great day.